Alien bastards strapped down the little human girl, sadistically inflicting horrific torture until her fragile body gave out and slipped into unconsciousness. The Malan thought they could test human limits, break the spirit of Earth's youngest and most innocent on a remote defenseless colony. They were wrong, dead wrong. Now the human monsters were awake. The year was 2257. Sirens blared as a cryogenics pod hissed open. Walter Hill, Earth's most lethal super soldier, rose from his frozen slumber. He blinked with augmented eyes as he took in the sterile cryobay, feeling the chill of stasis still clinging to his muscular frame. Within moments, a voice came over the intercom. "Soldier Hill, report for emergency briefing immediately." Walter moved with a sense of urgency, his genetically engineered body already alert and primed for action. He had no idea how long he'd been asleep or why he had been awakened. But that sharp edge of danger, that instinctive pull toward a threat, was unmistakable. He strode into the briefing room where grim-faced officers awaited. Their tense postures and hard eyes told him this was no drill. General Mathis, his weathered face lined with anger, spoke first. "Hill, we have a situation. The Milan hit Haven Colony, slaughtered the adults, took a captive." The general gritted his teeth. "A little girl, Lily Roth, 8 years old. They tortured her, pushed her until her body collapsed, and broadcast the whole goddamn thing." White-hot rage ignited in Walter's chest. Brutal images flashed on the screen. A child's bruised and bloodied face, alien claws tearing into soft flesh, Lily's desperate screams as she begged them to stop. "Why?" he asked, his voice a low growl. They wanted to see the limits of human endurance, the boundaries of our biology and psyche. They wanted to know how far they could push us before we break. Mathis leaned forward, his eyes hard as flint. "It's a message, Hill. They're toying with us, testing our resolve." Earth had a tentative peace with the Malon, a careful dance of diplomacy and veiled threats. The technologically advanced aliens could easily overpower humanity's defenses if they chose. But this was a line crossed, a gauntlet thrown down. "Lily managed to send a distress signal," Mathis continued. "She bought us a shot at getting her back. That's where you come in." Walter stood straighter, his body practically vibrating with a need for violence. "What are my orders, sir?" "You're to infiltrate Malan's space, rescue the girl, and send a very pointed message. We will not be trifled with. Our children are sacrosanct, and we will rain hell on anyone who forgets that." General Mathis paused, his gaze boring into Walter. "You're our best, most ruthless asset. The Malin wanted to see the unleashed potential of humanity. Let's give them a front row seat." Walter nodded grimly. The aliens had made a fatal error. They thought they knew human weaknesses, thought they could exploit human limits, but they had never faced anything like him. He suited up in cutting-edge armor, a sleek black shell that felt like a second skin. He armed himself with an arsenal of devastating weapons, plasma rifles, neurotoxin grenades, retractable blades sharp enough to slice through bone. As he boarded the stealth ship destined for Malan territory, Walter felt no fear, no hesitation. He was forged for this, honed into a living weapon. He would carve a path of destruction through the alien forces, paint their ships red with their own blood. Failure was not an option. Lily was counting on him. Every human was counting on him. The Malan would learn the depths of human wrath, the price of waking the monsters they thought to control. Earth's most lethal defender was awake, and God help the aliens who stood in his way. Walter's stealth ship, the Spectre, cuts through the void of space like a knife, its advanced cloaking tech rendering it invisible to Malan sensors. The massive alien dreadnought looms ahead, a behemoth of metal and malice. Walter studies the intel on his display, his eyes narrowing at the sight of the formidable vessel. It's heavily shielded, overflowing with weapons and crawling with elite Milan guards. Getting in won't be easy, but for Lily, he'll find a way. As the Spectre draws closer, a flashing alert catches Walter's attention. Unusual energy readings emanate from the dreadnought's lower decks. He runs a scan, and the results confirm his suspicions. A hidden research lab, likely the very place where the Milan subjected Lily to their brutal experiments. White-hot fury surges through his veins at the thought of what they put her through. Walter guides the Spectre to a blind spot along the Dreadnought's hull and docks with a barely audible clank. He checks his weapons one last time, ensuring his plasma rifle is fully charged and his neurotoxin grenades are primed. With a deep breath, he cycles the airlock and steps into the belly of the beast. The corridor is dimly lit, the air thick with the acrid stench of Malon. Walter's augmented senses are on high alert, his genetically enhanced muscles coiled and ready for action. He moves with the lethal grace of a predator, his footsteps nearly silent on the metal grating. A patrol of Malon guards rounds the corner, their reptilian eyes widening in surprise at the sight of the intruder. They reach for their weapons, but Walter is faster. He blurs into motion, his speed and reflexes far beyond anything the aliens have encountered. In a flurry of brutal strikes, he dispatches the guards, their bodies crumpling to the floor. Walter quickly strips one of the fallen Malon and dons their armor, hoping the disguise will buy him some time. He drags the bodies out of sight and presses on, his mind racing as he navigates the labyrinthine ship. Hacking into a control panel, Walter accesses a map of the Dreadnought. The lab is deep within the vessel, but he also notices a cell block nearby. His heart pounds as he realizes that must be where they're keeping Lily. Every fiber of his being screams to go to her immediately, but he knows he needs to be smart. He has to find out what the Milan did to her, and why. Just as Walter finalizes his approach, alarms blare throughout the ship. A cold dread settles in his gut. They've discovered his breached airlock. Red lights flash and klaxons wail as a detachment of Malon hunter-killers, their deadliest warriors, is dispatched to his position. Stealth is no longer an option. Now it's kill or be killed. Walter arms his most devastating weapons, knowing he'll need every advantage to fight his way through the ship. As he battles deeper into the Dreadnought, he plants explosive charges at key structural points. A failsafe, in case things go wrong. He'll blow this entire vessel to hell before he lets the Malon stop him. Smoke fills the corridors as Walter carves a path of destruction, his plasma rifle searing through Malon flesh and armor alike. Their agonized screams echo off the walls, but he tunes them out, his focus absolute. He has to get to Lily. Finally, he bursts into the cell block, his eyes frantically scanning the rows of dimly lit cages. There, in the far corner, a small human figure lies curled on the floor. Walter's heart clenches as he races to her cell, ripping the door open with a screech of metal. Lily looks so fragile, her tiny form battered and bruised. But she's alive. Unconscious, but alive. Walter reaches for her, but a menacing voice crackles over the ship's comms. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." It's Pixis, the ruthless Malon commander. "Surrender now, or watch the girl die as I flood her cell with lethal gas." A growl builds in Walter's throat. He knows it's a bluff. Pixis would never harm his precious test subject. Without responding, he gathers Lily in his arms, cradling her close as he sprints for the lab. He has to find out the truth of what they did to her, before the whole ship comes down on their heads. Barricading the lab door behind him, Walter lays Lily gently on a table and turns to the alien computers. His fingers fly over the keys as he hacks into the mainframe, his eyes widening in horror at what he finds. The Milan weren't just torturing Lily for the sake of cruelty. They were mapping her brain, trying to isolate the genes that give humans their psionic potential. A cold realization washes over Walter. If the Malon succeed in unlocking humanity's latent abilities for themselves, they'll become an unstoppable force. This mission is no longer just about saving one little girl. It's about preventing an existential threat to his entire species. Gritting his teeth, Walter scoops up Lily and blasts out of the lab, a horde of hunter-killers hot on his heels. Plasma bolts sizzle past his head as he charges through the ship, the staccato beat of his boots pounding against the deck. He has to get Lily to the Spectre, has to get her to safety. Then he can lead the charge to end the Milan threat once and for all. Walter rounds the final corner, his ship in sight. Clutching Lily tight, he puts on a burst of speed, his heart hammering against his ribs. Just a little farther, almost there. The Spectre's airlock slides open, beckoning them to salvation. With a final leap, Walter hurls them both inside, slamming the hatch shut behind them. As the stealth ship detaches from the dreadnought and slips into the stars, Walter looks down at the precious cargo in his arms. Lily stirs, her eyes fluttering open. She stares up at him, her gaze a mixture of fear and hope. "Is it over?" she whispers, her voice small and broken. Walter brushes a strand of hair from her face, his voice a solemn vow. "No, little one, it's only just begun." The Spectre sliced through space, leaving the Milan dreadnought behind. Walter rushed to the medbay, Lily's small form cradled in his arms. He placed her on the examination table and activated the ship's advanced medical systems. "Hold on, kid," Walter muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. Scanners hummed to life, bathing Lily in blue light. Data flashed across the screens, vital signs, cellular damage, neural patterns. Walter's eyes narrowed as he processed the information. The Malone's experiments had taken a heavy toll on her body. He worked tirelessly, administering regenerative treatments and carefully calibrated doses of nanites. Slowly, Lily's condition stabilized. The bruises on her skin began to fade and her breathing steadied. With Lily out of immediate danger, Walter opened a secure channel to Earth Command. General Mathis's face appeared on the screen, lined with worry. "Report, Hill." Walter's face hardened. "Sir, the situation is worse than we thought. The Malon weren't just torturing Lily. They're after our psionic potential." He uploaded his findings from the alien lab. Mathis's eyes widened as he reviewed the data. "My God," the general breathed. "If they harness this—" "They'd be unstoppable," Walter finished grimly. Mathis's expression hardened. "Get that girl back to Earth immediately. We need to know everything she experienced. In the meantime, I'm mobilizing our fleets. The Milan have crossed a line. We're taking the fight to them." Walter nodded, cutting the transmission. He plotted a course for Earth, pushing the Spectre's engines to their limits. Hours passed. Walter checked on Lily regularly, relief washing over him as color returned to her cheeks. She stirred, eyelids fluttering. Suddenly alarms blared. Walter sprinted to the cockpit, hands flying over the controls. A massive Malon frigate phased into view, weapons locked on the Spectre. "Shit!" Walter snarled. A familiar voice crackled over the comms. "Did you think you could escape so easily?" Commander Pixis's reptilian features filled the screen, eyes gleaming with malice. "Return the girl, and I might let you live." Walter's response was to open fire, the Spectre's energy weapons lancing out, but the Malon ship's shields held firm. The space around them erupted into chaos. Walter's hands danced across the controls, the Spectre spinning and weaving through a barrage of plasma bolts. But the Malon frigate was relentless, its superior firepower hammering the stealth ship's defenses. Warning lights flashed, shields failing, hull integrity compromised. Walter gritted his teeth, scanning for options, his eyes locked onto a dense field of asteroids ahead. Without hesitation, he plunged the Spectre into the swirling mass of rock and ice. The Malon frigate followed, its bulk working against it as it tried to navigate the treacherous terrain. Walter's augmented reflexes were pushed to their limits. He corkscrewed the Spectre through impossibly narrow gaps using the asteroids as cover. A massive chunk of rock exploded next to them, pummeling the hull with debris. The Malon ship wasn't faring much better. Its shields flared as it smashed through smaller asteroids, unable to match the Spectre's agility. Walter saw his chance. He cut the engines, letting the Spectre drift behind a particularly large asteroid. The Malon frigate lumbered past, momentarily losing sight of its prey. In that instant, Walter made his move. He space-jumped from the Spectre, his armored form hurtling through the void. He slammed into the Malon ship's hull, magnetic boots locking on as he drew his plasma cutter. Walter carved his way inside, dispatching Malon guards with brutal efficiency. He fought his way deeper into the ship, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. In the frigate's labs, Walter uncovered horrifying evidence. Stasis pods held grotesquely altered Malin warriors, their DNA spliced with human genes. The aliens had already begun weaponizing humanity's psionic potential. Walter's blood ran cold. This had to end, now. He burst onto the bridge face to face with Commander Pixis. The Milan leader's eyes glowed with an unnatural light. "You're too late, human," Pixis snarled. The air crackled with energy as Pixis unleashed a psionic assault. Walter staggered, his mind assaulted by waves of alien force. He pushed back, drawing on every ounce of his enhanced physiology. Their battle raged across the bridge, a clash of raw physical power and newly awakened psionic abilities. Consoles sparked and crumpled under the onslaught. Walter felt his strength failing, Pixis's attacks growing stronger. But as the Malon commander prepared a killing blow, Walter saw an opening. He lunged forward, augmented muscles propelling him with inhuman speed. His fist connected with Pixis's jaw with a sickening crunch. The alien crumpled, the glow fading from his eyes. Gasping for breath, Walter secured Pixis and set the frigate's self-destruct sequence. He raced back to his entry point, space-jumping to the waiting Spectre moments before the Milan ship erupted in a massive fireball. Walter stumbled into the Spectre's medbay. To his surprise, Lily was awake, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "It's okay," he said softly, collapsing into a chair beside her. "You're safe now." As the Spectre resumed its course to Earth, Walter couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. They'd won this battle, but the war was just beginning, and humanity would need every advantage to survive what was coming. The Spectre burst through Earth's orbital defense grid, alarms blaring as Walter guided the battered ship to a docking bay. He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. They'd made it. His relief was short-lived. As Walter carried Lily's unconscious form down the ramp, General Mathis rushed to meet them, his face grim. "Hill, we've got incoming. A massive Milan fleet just entered the system." Walter's blood ran cold. "How many?" "Hundreds of ships. They're making a beeline for our outer colonies." Before Walter could respond, a team of medics swarmed around them, whisking Lily away on a gurney. He watched helplessly as they rushed her towards a nearby shuttle. "Where are they taking her?" Walter demanded. "Secure facility planetside," Mathis replied. "Our top psionics researchers are standing by. Right now, that girl might be our best shot at understanding what we're up against." Walter nodded, his face hardened. "What's our next move?" Mathis led him towards a sleek, menacing vessel docked nearby. "This is the EDF Dauntless, newest ship in the fleet, armed with experimental tech based on what we've learned about Malin psionics. You're taking her out." "Me?" Walter blinked in surprise. "You've got more combat experience against these bastards than anyone. We need you out there, buying us time while we get our defenses in order." Walter stepped aboard the Dauntless, drinking in the cutting-edge bridge. As the crew prepped for launch, he studied the weapon schematics. Psionic disruptor cannons. He hoped they'd be enough. The next hours passed in a blur of frantic action. Walter pushed the Dauntless to its limits, dancing through Malin formations. They struck hard and fast, crippling engines and weapon systems before vanishing back into the void. But for every Malin ship they took down, 2 more seemed to appear. Walter watched grimly as the alien armada inexorably advanced, leaving broken human colonies in their wake. "This isn't working," he growled. "We need to take out their command and control." He laid out a plan to his crew. A strike team would infiltrate the Malin flagship while the Dauntless provided a distraction. It was a suicide mission, but no one hesitated. They fought their way through twisting corridors, the air thick with the stench of ozone and alien blood. Walter's enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limits as they battled Malin warriors wielding terrifying new abilities. In the heart of the ship, Walter came face to face with his worst nightmare, a Malon soldier, its body warped and twisted, eyes glowing with stolen human consciousness. As their minds clashed, Walter felt like his skull was being torn apart. With a final, desperate surge of will, Walter overcame the abomination. As it crumpled to the deck, he stared in horror at what the Milan had wrought. Warning klaxons blared as Walter's team raced back to their infiltration craft. The Malin flagship imploded behind them, an expanding ball of fire and twisted metal. In the aftermath of the battle, Walter stood on the Dauntless's observation deck, staring at the debris field. They'd won, but at a terrible cost. And according to the transmissions they'd intercepted, this was only the beginning. A priority message flashed on his console. Earth Command, ordering him planet-side immediately. Something about Lily and a psionic time bomb. Walter's gut clenched as he set course for home. Whatever was coming, he had a feeling their trials were a long way to go. Walter strode into the secure facility, his boots echoing on the sterile floor. The air hummed with tension as he entered the observation room. Through the reinforced glass, he saw Lily lying on a bed, her small form racked with spasms. Dr. Eliza Chen, the lead researcher, approached him with a grim expression. "It's worse than we thought, Hill. The Milan's experiments have destabilized her neural pathways." Walter watched as energy crackled around Lily's body. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Chen pulled up a holographic display, showing a chaotic swirl of neural activity. "Her latent psionic abilities have been supercharged. If we can't contain this, the resulting shockwave could wipe out all life on Earth." Walter's mind focused. "What are our options?" "We need someone to link with her mind," Chen explained, "to ground her powers and help her channel them safely. Your enhanced physiology makes you the ideal candidate." "The risks?" Walter asked, already knowing the answer. Chen's voice was quiet. "Severe neural trauma, possible loss of self, death." Walter nodded, his decision already made. "Let's do it." Minutes later, Walter lay on a bed next to Lily, electrodes dotting his scalp. Scientists swarmed around them, making final preparations. "Initiating neural sync," Chen announced. Walter felt a jolt. Then his world exploded into chaos. Raw, unfiltered power surged through his mind. He screamed, every nerve on fire. Beside him, Lily convulsed. Images flashed before his eyes. Alien laboratories, twisted experiments, the vastness of space. Walter pushed back against the tide of memories and sensations, struggling to assert control. "Walter!" Lily's voice echoed in his mind. "Help me!" He focused on her presence, imagining himself as an anchor in a stormy sea. Slowly, painfully, order began to emerge from the chaos. The maelstrom of energy coalesced into streams of information. Walter gasped, his eyes snapping open. "I can see it," he panted. "The Milan's plans, their research, everything." Chen leaned over him, eyes wide. "What do you see?" "Coordinates," Walter said. "Dozens of hidden facilities. And their endgame. They're not just after our psionic potential. They want to harvest our entire species." In the days that followed, Walter led strike teams against Malin outposts across the galaxy. Each mission pushed him to his limits as he balanced combat with containing Lily's volatile powers. During one assault on a Malin research station, Walter felt Lily's control slipping. Energy built within him, threatening to explode outward. "No!" He gritted his teeth, willing the power back, but it was too much. A shockwave of pure psionic force erupted from Walter's body. Malin and human ships alike spun out of control, their systems fried. Walter collapsed to his knees, blood trickling from his nose. In that moment, he faced a choice. He could sever the link, saving himself from the overwhelming power. Or he could dive deeper, risking everything to maintain control. Walter chose Lily. He plunged into the roiling sea of her consciousness, letting the full force of her power wash over him. Pain unlike anything he'd ever experienced tore through his mind. But he held on. Seconds stretched into eternity as Walter's will clashed with cosmic forces. Finally, mercifully, the storm subsided. Walter opened his eyes, forever changed. Lily's thoughts mingled freely with his own. Her memories became his memories, Her pain became his pain. As the tide of war shifted in humanity's favor, Walter found himself haunted by dual sets of nightmares. His own combat experiences blended with Lily's recollections of Malin torture. He sat alone in his quarters, hands shaking as he tried to sort through the jumble of thoughts and emotions. The once clear line between Walter Hill and Lily blurred with each passing day. A chime sounded. "Commander," a voice called. "The War Council is assembling. They need your input on the final assault." Walter stood, steadying himself. He could feel the cracks forming in his psyche, hairline fractures that threatened to shatter completely. But humanity needed him, needed them. He took a deep breath and stepped out to face whatever came next. Walter stood on the bridge of the EDF terminus, his hands gripping the command console as sweat beaded on his forehead. The massive dreadnought hummed with pent-up energy, its experimental psychotronic amplifiers sending tingles through his body. "All systems primed, Commander," the tactical officer reported. "Operation Mindfire is go." Walter nodded, his lips pursed tight. He felt the weight of Earth's hopes pressing down on him, along with the constant turmoil of Lily's consciousness intertwined with his own. The physical distance between them only intensified the mental strain. "Launch," he ordered, his voice tight. The terminus surged forward, leading the massive human armada towards the Malin staging grounds. As they approached the enemy lines, Walter reached out with his mind, feeling the amplifiers boost his power to unprecedented levels. With a thought, he seized control of the massive ship. The crew gasped as the terminus accelerated to impossible speeds, plowing through the Malin defense platforms like they were made of paper. Alien energy beams splashed harmlessly against the hull as Walter erected psionic shields around the human fleet. The battle erupted in earnest. Walter stood at the center of the storm, his mind expanded across the battlefield. He saw through the eyes of every human pilot, felt the terror of every Milan warrior as he tore their ships apart with titanic blasts of pure psychic energy. But with each exertion, Walter felt his grip on reality slipping. Memories assaulted him, his own brutal combat experiences blending with Lily's nightmarish recollections of Malin experiments. He staggered, nearly falling as his consciousness splintered. "Sir!" a concerned crewman reached out to steady him. Walter shook his head, forcing himself to focus. He could feel different aspects of his personality warring for control. The cold tactician demanded he press the attack ruthlessly. The protective guardian urged caution, thinking of Lily and the other innocents caught in this war. A primal part of him howled for vengeance against the Malin. Gritting his teeth, Walter pushed through the mental chaos. He spotted the Malin's psionic control nexus, a massive construct at the heart of their fleet. If he could destroy it, the entire invasion would crumble. "All ahead, full!" he shouted. "Target that nexus!" The terminus plunged deeper into the enemy formation. Walter lashed out with his powers, smashing Malin's ships aside. But as they closed in on their target, he felt a sudden, searing pain lance through his mind. Alien psionic warriors aboard the Nexus had launched their own attack. Walter screamed as their mental assault tore into his fractured psyche, threatening to shatter his consciousness completely. In that moment of agony, a final aspect of Walter's personality crystallized. The unyielding human warrior, sworn to protect his species at any cost. With supreme effort, he reached out to Lily across the vast distance separating them. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Then he seized the full measure of her psionic potential, channeling it through his own body and the ship's amplifiers. A blinding wave of psychic energy erupted from the terminus. It engulfed the Malin Nexus, obliterating it and every alien ship for thousands of kilometers. The cosmic conflagration consumed Walter's body, leaving nothing but ashes. As consciousness faded, Walter felt a sense of peace. He had done his duty. Humanity would survive. The crippled terminus drifted silently amidst the devastated Malin armada. On its bridge, the stunned crew stared at the empty space where their commander had stood only moments before. Back on Earth, alarms blared as the monitors tracking Walter and Lily flatlined simultaneously. In the observation room, General Mathis watched grimly as the tactical displays showed the annihilation of the Milan invasion force. "My God," he breathed. "He actually did it." Dr. Chen approached, her face pale. "Sir, Walter and Lily are both gone. The psychic feedback—" Mathis nodded heavily. "I know, but their sacrifice just saved our entire species." He turned to face the assembled staff, his expression grim yet resolute. "This victory came at a terrible cost," he said, "but it proves that even in the face of alien terrors and cosmic forces, the strength of the human spirit remains our greatest weapon. Now we must." As the echoes of Walter's sacrifice reverberated across the cosmos, humanity's forces pressed their advantage against the reeling Milan armada. Earth's warships, emboldened by their commander's heroic act, tore through the alien fleet with ruthless efficiency. Aboard the EDF Dauntless, Admiral Zhao barked orders as his crew tracked the enemy's desperate retreat. "Don't let up. Push them back to—" His words cut short as the ship's sensors blared. On the main view screen, a pulsing energy signature emerged from the debris field. "What the hell is that?" Zhao demanded. The tactical officer's fingers flew across his console. "Sir, it's a Milan life sign. Impossibly strong." In the void of space, a cocoon of crackling psionic energy unfurled. From within emerged a figure that radiated malevolence. Commander Pixis, his alien features twisted with rage and purpose. Back on Earth, alarms blared throughout the secure facility housing Lily. Dr. Chen raced down sterile corridors, her heart pounding as she neared the girl's chamber. The facility's defenses, designed to withhold the most powerful psychic assaults, crumbled like paper. Chen burst into the observation room, her eyes wide with horror. Through the reinforced glass, she saw Pixis looming over Lily's small form. The Milan commander's eyes glowed with unholy power as tendrils of dark energy wormed their way into the child's mind. "No!" Chen screamed, pounding futilely on the glass. Lily's eyes snapped open, now devoid of their usual warmth and innocence. She rose from the bed, suspended by an invisible force as Pixis's will consumed her. The Milan commander's voice reverberated through the facility, dripping with cruel satisfaction. "The weapon you sought to use against us will be your undoing." With a gesture from Pixis, Lily's small hand raised. The entire facility shuddered, then imploded in on itself. Chen's last thought, as the world collapsed around her, was of Walter. Across the globe, humanity reeled as their savior turned destroyer. Major cities crumbled under waves of psychokinetic force. Military installations, their defenses useless against Lily's raw power, were wiped from existence. In Washington, D.C., General Mathis stared at screens filled with destruction and chaos. "My God," he whispered. "How do we fight this?" Meanwhile, in the formless expanse of the psionic ether, Walter's consciousness drifted, his sense of self fragmented, memories and sensations swirling in a maelstrom of confusion. Flashes of battle, of Lily's smile, of the searing pain of his sacrifice, all blended together in a cacophony of experience. Gradually, Walter became aware of other presences in the void. Familiar voices called out to him, tugging at the edges of his scattered essence. He recognized them, the souls of soldiers who had fought and died under his command. "Commander Hill," a spectral voice echoed, "we need you. Earth needs you." Walter's fragmented psyche coalesced around that call to duty. With tremendous effort, he pulled the shards of his being together, drawing strength from the warrior spirits around him. As his astral form took shape, Walter sensed the devastation unfolding on Earth. He felt Lily's pain and Pixis's malevolent presence like a festering wound in reality. "Hold on, Lily." Walter's newly formed consciousness surged towards his home planet. "I'm coming." In the depths of Lily's corrupted mind, Pixis reveled in his impending victory. The alien commander stood at the center of a maelstrom of psionic energy, preparing for the final ritual that would lobotomize humanity. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced the darkness of Lily's mental landscape. Walter materialized, his astral form radiating defiance. Pixis snarled, lashing out with tendrils of dark energy. "You're too late, human. This world is mine." Walter stood his ground, channeling the combined will of countless human souls. "As long as one of us still fights," he declared, "Earth will never be yours." The two titans of psychic might clashed, their battle shaking the very foundations of reality, and in the balance hung the fate of all humanity. Humanity. Within the vast expanse of Lily's mindscape, Walter's astral form shimmered with newfound power. The spirits of fallen human warriors coalesced around him, their essences merging with his own. He stood tall, a radiant bulwark against the encroaching darkness of Commander Pixis. Pixis's malevolent presence oozed through the psychic landscape, tendrils of corrupting energy seeking purchase in Lily's fractured psyche. The alien commander's voice echoed, dripping with cruel satisfaction. "Your efforts are futile, human. The girl's mind belongs to me now." Walter gritted his teeth, channeling the collective will of humanity into a shield of pure mental energy. "You'll never have her, Pixis. Not while I still fight." The alien's laughter reverberated through the cosmic void. Suddenly, Walter found himself assaulted by a barrage of nightmarish visions. He saw Lily strapped to cold metal tables, alien instruments carving into her flesh. He heard her screams, felt her terror and agony as if it were his own. "Do you see now?" Pixis hissed. "This is the truth of your precious humanity. Weak, fragile, easily broken." Walter staggered under the psychic onslaught, his form flickering, but deep within he felt a spark of defiance ignite. He focused on his memories of Lily, her smile, her courage, the warmth of her hand in his. "No," Walter growled. "This isn't who she is. This isn't what defines us." He pushed back against Pixis's mental assault, his astral body blazing with renewed vigor. The nightmarish visions began to unravel, dissolving like mist before the rising sun. Pixis snarled in frustration, hurling lances of psionic energy that tore through the fabric of reality itself. Walter stood firm, his form bending but never breaking as he absorbed the alien's attacks. "How?" Pixis roared. "How can you withstand this?" Walter's voice rang out, clear and strong. "Because we are more than our pain, Pixis. We are defined by our ability to endure, to overcome." As he spoke, Walter felt Lily's presence stirring within him. Her memories flowed through his consciousness, not just the pain and fear, but moments of joy, of love, of quiet strength in the face of adversity. Pixis, sensing defeat, lashed out in desperation. His consciousness expanded, threatening to engulf Lily's mind entirely. "If I cannot have her," the alien commander raged, "then neither shall you." Walter acted on instinct, throwing himself between Pixis and Lily's fading essence. He felt the girl's psyche merging with his own, their identities blurring together as Pixis's final attack washed over them. For a moment, Walter feared they would both be lost in the maelstrom. But then he felt it, a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. Lily's indomitable spirit joined with his own, creating something entirely new. Their combined consciousness exploded outward in a nova of pure psionic energy. Pixis's essence, caught in the blast, screamed in impotent fury as it was scattered to the cosmic winds. As the psychic storm subsided, a new entity coalesced from the swirling energies. Neither fully Walter nor fully Lily, but a perfect synthesis of both. Its radiance illuminated the shattered remnants of Lily's mindscape, healing and restoring as it spread. The being that was once Walter and Lily looked out across the vast expanse of the cosmos, seeing with new eyes the infinite possibilities that lay before them. They were more than human now, yet in their heart burned the unquenchable fire of humanity's spirit. With a thought, the newly forged entity began to move, soaring effortlessly through the dimensions. Where they passed, reality itself seemed to shudder, and the entity born from Walter and Lily's fusion surged across the cosmos, its radiance piercing the veil between dimensions. This new being, neither fully human nor wholly transcendent, carried within it the essence of humanity's unyielding spirit. On Earth, the effects of this cosmic birth rippled outward. In the ruins of New York City, a group of survivors huddled in the basement of a collapsed skyscraper suddenly felt a strange calm wash over them. The oppressive psychic weight that had pressed down on their minds for weeks vanished in an instant. Sarah, a young woman who had been struggling to hold back the alien influence, gasped as her mind cleared. It's gone," she whispered, looking around at her fellow survivors with wide eyes. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In the command center of Earth's defense forces, General Mathis watched in awe as reports flooded in from all corners of the planet. "Sir," a junior officer called out, his voice filled with disbelief. "The Malan psychic attacks have ceased. Our own psionic operatives report. They report a massive surge in their abilities." Mathis leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing Earth's defenses. Dots representing human forces began to pulse with newfound energy. In orbit, aboard the EDF Dauntless, Admiral Zhao felt a tingling sensation at the base of his skull. He blinked, suddenly aware of the thoughts and emotions of his crew, not as invasive presences, but as a harmonious symphony of human consciousness. "All ships, press the attack," Zhao ordered, his voice ringing with newfound confidence. "The tide has turned." The human fleet surged forward, their hulls now sheathed in shimmering psionic barriers. Malan energy weapons splashed harmlessly against these defenses, while human gunners found their shots guided by an almost prescient awareness of the enemy's movements. On the ground, in the scorched fields outside of London, Private Jessica Chen felt power coursing through her veins. She raised her hand, and a lance of pure psionic energy erupted from her palm, slicing through a Malan war machine without difficulty. "Holy shit," she breathed, staring at her hand in amazement. Around her, other soldiers were discovering similar abilities, their minds awakening to possibilities they had never imagined. In the ethereal realm where the Archon dwelled, the tattered remnants of Pixis's consciousness clawed desperately for purchase. But the being that was once Walter and Lily turned its attention to these malevolent whispers, its radiance burning away the last vestiges of the alien commander's evil. Within the heart of this cosmic conflagration, a spark of pure human essence began to coalesce. Guided by the indomitable spirit of Walter Hill, Lily's consciousness took shape once more. Her form, though still ethereal, pulsed with vibrant energy. The Archon's voice, a blend of Walter's steadfast persistence and Lily's innocent wonder, echoed through her newly reformed mind. "You must return, Lily. Earth needs you now more than ever." Lily's eyes opened, shining with otherworldly light. She nodded, understanding the weight of her purpose without words. As her consciousness descended back towards the material plane, she felt the Archon's presence spread out across the cosmos, a watchful guardian of humanity's newfound potential. On Earth, in the midst of a battlefield strewn with the wreckage of alien and human vessels alike, a point of light blossomed. It grew, taking on a human shape, small, delicate, yet radiating an aura of immense power. Lily stood, her feet touching the scorched earth. Her eyes, filled with the wisdom of cosmic secrets, surveyed the scene before her. In the distance, human forces advanced, pushing back the once unstoppable Malan horde. She took a step forward, ready to guide humanity into this new age of psionic awakening. The war was just getting started, but for the first time since the invasion began, hope burned bright in the hearts of Earth's defenders. Defenders. Lily's iridescent form materialized amid the chaos of battle, her presence a beacon of hope amidst the retreating Malan armada. The Archon's celestial resonance flowed through her, transforming the young girl into a living conduit of humanity's awakened psychic potential. She stood on the scorched earth, her eyes blazing with otherworldly light. Around her, waves of human psychics rallied, their minds linked in a vast network of shared consciousness. Lily raised her hand, and a pulse of pure psionic energy rippled outward, shattering the last of the Malan's psychic defenses. "Forward!" Lily's voice rang out, both audibly and in the minds of every human fighter. This is our moment! The unified human force surged ahead, their combined psychic might tearing through the aliens' counter-sorceries like paper. Malin warriors recoiled in terror as they witnessed Lily's approach, their once impenetrable mental barriers crumbling under the onslaught of humanity's ascendant psionic power. As Lily pressed onward towards the Malin command nexus, a disquieting tremor rippled through the fabric of reality. The Archon's cosmic harmony faltered, its unifying light flickering like a candle in a storm. Suddenly, a deafening psychic roar shattered the air. The very sky seemed to split open, revealing a yawning void of absolute darkness. From this abyssal tear, an ancient and malevolent consciousness erupted into our reality. The Milan progenitor, a writhing mass of formless malice, unfurled its colossal psychic tendrils. Its rage at humanity's audacity to challenge its cosmic dominion manifested as waves of pure hatred that washed over the battlefield. Lily screamed as the progenitor's psychic grip closed around her, paralyzing her in a metaphysical stranglehold. She felt her consciousness being crushed, her newfound powers faltering under the weight of this primordial evil. The Archon's supernal form flared in resistance, its light striving to burn away the choking tethers that bound Lily. But the progenitor's malevolence proved too deeply rooted, its essence drawn from the darkest corners of the cosmos. In a final, daring plan, the Archon forged a contingency link with Lily's fading astral form. Through this connection, Lily felt the remnants of Walter Hill's heroic spirit surge within her. With a burst of will, Lily projected her consciousness directly into the heart of the Malin progenitor's domain, a hellish landscape of twisted psychic energy. Here, amid the swirling chaos of the void between dimensions, the terrible truth revealed itself. Guided by the fragments of Walter's soul, Lily navigated the nightmarish realm. She witnessed visions of Earth's prehistoric past, saw the progenitor corrupting the first human psychics, twisting them into the monstrous precursors of the Malin race. The realization hit Lily like a physical blow. The Milan were not alien invaders, but a perversion of humanity's own potential. To save Earth, to save the entire cosmos, she would have to face the source of this corruption head-on. Steeling herself, Lily plunged deeper into the progenitor's psychic hellscape. Each step brought fresh waves of agony as she relived the torments inflicted upon countless human souls throughout history. She saw civilizations rise and fall, felt the pain of every life snuffed out by the Malin's endless crusade. The anguish threatened to overwhelm her, burning away layers of her astral form with each new revelation. But with each fresh assault, more of Walter Hill's imparted heroism surged to the forefront of Lily's consciousness. His unwavering courage became her anchor, allowing her to push through barriers of pain that would have shattered lesser minds. Even so, Lily felt her persistence wavering under the unrelenting barrage of horrors. The progenitor's soul-shattering austerities seemed endless, each more terrible than the last. In her darkest moment, teetering on the brink of oblivion, Lily reached out to the one force the progenitor could never comprehend, the collective love and compassion of humanity. She opened herself fully to this cosmic wellspring of emotion, channeling it through her very being. Lily's astral form blazed with renewed vigor, repelling the encroaching darkness with the pure, brilliant light of human potential. The progenitor howled in outrage, its eldritch malevolence crashing against Lily's radiant defenses in futile waves. As Lily stood firm against this onslaught, she felt Walter's presence grow stronger, their essences intertwined, merging into something greater than either had been alone. Together they faced the full fury of the progenitor's hatred. The cosmic battlefield shuddered as Lily and Walter's unified spirits clashed with the progenitor's corrupt power. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist around them as they grappled with the source of the Malin's evil. With a final titanic effort, Lily and Walter's combined essence seared through the progenitor's defenses. They plunged into the very heart of its being, their light cauterizing the cosmic wound that had festered for eons. The progenitor's agonized scream echoed across dimensions as its taint was purged. Stripped of its corrupting influence, The ancient entity's essence unraveled, dispersing into the newly cleansed psionic planes. Back on Earth, the effects of this cosmic rebirth rippled outward. The Malan fleet's psionic arcana crumbled to ash, leaving their ships powerless and adrift. Warriors who had lived their entire lives under the progenitor's thrall suddenly found themselves severed from its corrupting presence. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Lily's physical form coalesced once more. She stood tall, her eyes now holding the wisdom of ages. The assembled human psychics looked to her with awe and reverence, sensing the incredible power that now resided within this young girl. Lily surveyed the scene before her, feeling the weight of humanity's newfound potential. She knew that this victory was not an end, but a beginning. A new age of psionic evolution and cosmic exploration lay ahead, with Lily as its guide and guardian. With a gesture, Lily summoned a gathering of Earth's leaders and most powerful psychics. It was time to...
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.